I'm really, really tired from this weekend.
This day and I can't today. And I'm like, what in the heck is going on? I start investigating. I think it's caused by Microsoft's OneDrive because I signed in with a Microsoft account. It created all these OneDrive folders. I thought my iRacing was installed into OneDrive somehow, and I was freaking out. I could not launch the sim. So I ended up at a point in time. I did this for hours where I was at the point where I was going to reinstall Windows and start over, which I ended up doing the next day. But right about 11:30 when I was going to bed, iRacing put out a post, "Hey, we're affected by this CrowdStrike thing," and so that was the first I heard of it, and I figured, oh well, that's why I can't connect, and that ended up being the case. All Thursday night, late through Friday, they were down. Um, how were you guys affected? Were you affected at work or anything?
We had a little hiccup with our payroll stuff, but nothing major. I mean, thank goodness. But I mean, airlines, I think Delta was just basically decimated. Um, it's just again, we're in a world where everything is connected now, and all it takes is one thing to really upset everything.
We were a little worried if we weren't going to get to Spa and stuff like that and be able to race Friday night too, weren't we?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a worry. Absolutely, we'd already seen what had happened. What was it, 2 weekends ago when we had the whole DDoS attack, and you guys were going to try to run uh, the Conspit 24 Hours of Daytona, and that didn't go off. So yeah, I mean, there was fear that we weren't going to be able to run the spa.
Oh, iRacing, they did a good job mitigating the process. They did a good job communicating. Look, they communicated to their racers sooner than anyone in the media touched this. Sooner than anyone else really announced it that I saw. And I was definitely beating my head against the wall about why I couldn't get into iRacing. So
Well,
I
didn't
was looking.
They had a forum post up at 1 a.m. saying there's something going on that's causing the servers to go down.
Right. That's the one I'm referring to. I eventually saw that, and I decided to go to bed at that point.
All right, next up, we have a topic that we call a swing and a miss again. And this one's not dedicated to CrowdStrike, is it, Brad?
No. So we had a NASCAR ahead of in the Brickyard 400 to put up a post on Instagram or tweet rather, sorry, X, about Denny Hamlin looking to add the Final Crown jewel to his very accomplished racing resume. And we'd actually had Mike had started a kind of a text chat in the group chat, trying to figure out who on the team has won all of the crown jewels. So as we know, Denny ended up getting wrecked out of the 400, but that's the one that's missing from his resume.
And now Larson has 3 out of the 4. Now that he's won the Brickyard, all he needs is the Daytona 500.
I'm in the same boat as Larson.
I need a Brickyard 400, and I finished P6 that week, and man, I was thinking, man, if I could win this. And the next time I ran, which I think was Sunday morning, I felt like I was in a position to win, but it didn't work out.
Well, there's one kicker with the Brickyard is there's not a Brickyard every year.
Well, there hasn't been the last couple because of they were, I guess, 3 years they ran the road course or 2.
But even so, before that, it wasn't always a 400. A lot of times it'd be a 200.
It wasn't listed as a crown event, right? In iRacing is what you mean?
It wasn't a full length race. It would run a half distance. It was not always a Brickyard 400. Sometimes it was just 200.
You're talking about NIS
Bristol or something instead.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
in NIS.
Gotcha.
So on those years, if you won Indy, you wouldn't call it a Brickyard 400 win.
All right. Well, we were just hitting on the CrowdStrike thing causing problems, and apparently it may have actually extended to delay Exocross a little. We got a post from Steve Myers that says, with the current PC issues plaguing the planet, we've been informed that Exocross Xbox's submission is stalled.
We lost touch with its spirit.
Likely that the version of the game will be delayed a few days. He said that the Steam and PlayStation are good to go.
And they've been released, and we've seen a lot of videos about that already.
Are we covering that later?
It's a little bit further down in the script.
All right. Well, before we get to it, let's go ahead and talk about that 10-year plan, John.
Yeah, so iRacing's kind of laid out a 10-year plan on what they're going to do, and this is an article out of Traxion GG, and what they're going to release 2 video games this year. Of course, one of them is the Exocross. The other one, I don't remember which one it is, to be honest with you, but they lay out in this article, what's coming for iRacing, and I do think the Exocross did come out on the Xbox platform, but this gives you an idea of in the future, just like that game.
Yeah, so
there's a lot of good quotes here too from Steve Myers.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that. So I guess he got interviewed during the charity event. The one that stands right out to me really quick was, he says, quote, "Let me jump right to the thing that bugs me the most. Nothing that we do with these console products is taking away from anything we do on iRacing." And he says, if anything, what it's done is allow us to bring more people to the iRacing workforce. So, again, I'm glad that iRacing continues to be the primary focus of iRacing. I know that sounds redundant, but as they continue to get into their other console stuff. And look, we talked. I mean, the idea that they've said that with the console game coming for NASCAR, the benefits I think we're going to get on the iRacing side is they've said it's going to be all updated scans and all that stuff. So I think that will roll right into iRacing to allow us to be in a much better spot.
Another benefit may be that they have a little bit more cred on the console side now, and so we're a little bit more protected from a motorsports problem again, right? Where somebody comes in and says exclusive rights, and they can basically say, hey, look what happens here, but we do it, and we can still do it without going exclusive and completely ruining the game.
Well, they have more power, right, in the marketplace. If you got if you own a bigger chunk of where things are going, it's harder to someone to buy the exclusive rights to it. What you're saying, David, I think the other thing that they're trying to do is, I don't know what the numbers are for iRacing increasing membership wise and product being purchased wise in iRacing over the year, but I'm guessing at some point it's probably slowed down over the last couple of years here since COVID, and they're probably trying to find a way to create some more revenue to come into the company that can help facilitate justifying making some of these other things too, and putting resources towards them.
A couple other quotes from Steve. Quote, it's been a fun year that we've had 2 console games coming out this year, and even more exciting because we have the NASCAR 25 next year and our newest game, iRacing Arcade, which is currently called. iRacing as a business, we're just getting bigger and stronger. These new projects and things we do are based on the success we've had and allow us to grow our business, but also grow the customer base. If we can help to make new racers through Exocross, iRacing Arcade, or NASCAR 25, they will hopefully come up and be customers of iRacing and new people to race against. It's a big strategy. We're looking very far down the road, and we have a 10-year plan to really turn into a powerhouse in the gaming space as a publisher and a developer.
I wonder if this is the steps that they're taking to try and bring Unreal Engine to iRacing eventually.
I don't think so. I don't think so, because in the article it talks about they're shifting away from that after the release of the World of Outlaws. The Unity, I guess, is what they were doing. So I guess they are moving to the Unreal for NASCAR 25.
That's what I was saying. I'm thinking the NASCAR engine only is going so far. They're gonna have to go somewhere at some point in the next 10 years. They're gonna have to have another outlet to add to it.
Well, I know that they had, gosh, what was it? It's the actual podcast by iRacing. What is it, the download? That they had interviewed, I guess, Steve, and he said they're actually building an engine in-house. Is the plan.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they did say that. I'm wondering if this arcade one that they're coming up with is it going to be more of a tailored to as like a fixed game where it's just everything is, you just get the cars, you don't have to worry about setups, nothing. It's just the cars and a version of iRacing.
Right, iRacing Light is the way I would call it. Like a demo version almost.
Well, this is the one where they partnered with the company that did the circuit superstars and stuff, and they were doing that kart game. Reminds me somewhat of I don't want to say like a Mario Kart, but I mean that's kind of what it reminds me of. But very very light. So again, I just think they continue to diversify themselves, which is fine. And like I said, I do appreciate Steve saying that, at the end of the day, that the continuous goal is to continue to make iRacing better.
Virtual Bristol Motorsport.
I noticed too, they've got a section in here finding new sim racing fans, and they point out that the race fan base, is in that over 55 category now. Then they talk about the demographic being people age 55 to 64, which of course caught my attention because I'm in that demographic. And I just, I think the iRacing population is going to age, and it looks like they haven't forgotten that, and they're doing things to target that group.
Well, I think I would be curious to see what the demographic of the iRacing membership actually is. I think it's probably a lot older than what a lot of people think.
Well, I think it is, and I get
go
into
ahead.
a lot of chats. Sorry, Mike. I get into a lot of chats with guys that are my age and even older. I'm 63, so I think you're right, Brad. There are a lot of old guys still doing this.
Yeah, there's a mention that TJ Major is going to be the voice in the NASCAR 25 game. Pretty cool.
Had no news.
All right, next up, I remember where this video came from now, and I remember why it kind of got our attention. But the headline is confusing because it says the story of Justin Brooks and Daniel Buttafuoco, the final NASCAR championship. And I guess that means for NASCAR Heat, but that's not the only NASCAR there is. So I contest the title, I guess.
That year it was confusing. I think there were multiple NASCARs going on, and I remember on the show we purposely didn't talk about anything to do with Heat because it was already confusing enough, and I would get confused, you know.
So was Peak out at this point? Because I was out of the sim, for 7 years. So this whole stretch from 16 until 23, I was out.
This was on near the pandemic and afterwards.
It only takes Justin Brooks a few green flag laps.
I don't remember the sponsor of the Coke series, probably Peak, yeah.
Well, Peak
But
was,
anyway,
Peak was what it used to be. Peak was the original one because they used to there used to be the commercials with Clint Boyer in it and everything when he had the Peak antifreeze sponsorship.
It stays this way until 33 laps.
I remember now. And then the Coke sponsorship landed. That was really cool. And then we had the iRacing Super Speedway coming, and we thought they were going to name it the Coke Speedway because that was the original name of it back in the day. But they didn't. Everyone was surprised, even though they had this brand new relationship with Coke for $500,000.
Yeah, this championship was on August 19th, 2020.
So that's COVID year.
Yeah. So look, when DJ was on here, he shared that he was going to be doing some stuff that was somewhat out of the box a little bit, getting away, moving towards more of a documentary style videos. So, yeah, for me, I thought this was pretty neat. I never played with Heat, but I did recognize a lot of the names in this or guys that are on iRacing now or were probably on there before. So, I thought it was still kind of neat. And I mean, look, whether it was Heat or if it's iRacing, it's still sim racing. And at the end of the day, everybody, I think, deals with the same stuff.
I think the reason, Mike, I think the reason we stayed away from it too is because they were always having controversial endings to races with like wrecking into each other or pushing people out of the way.
Well, the quality of it was just not the quality of the game was just terrible. It was just terrible. I mean, if you look at, well, I guess I can't go there. It's just the quality of the drivers weren't really that on the same par as Coke drivers either.
Yeah, be careful.
I will go there.
Well, wait. Now, somebody in our chat said they were just wrecked last week by one of these guys in this video.
Be careful.
Now, he wasn't talking about the two stars of the video, Justin or Daniel, by the way. It was somebody else involved in the Heat racing. But what DJ EJ's done here is document, like you said, a documentary look at the NASCAR Heat and how that all went down, how NASCAR tried to, get their teams like Joe Gibbs Racing and, all these, to get these Heat drivers and recruit them and do all this stuff, kind of like they're doing in the Coke series, but they were doing it in the Heat series, console racing.
All right. Next up, we have the Super Project update, and the guy took it all the way up with the iRatings to 2024.
Super special
How does this one look, Brad?
He probably doesn't need an introduction.
So I watched this, and it was not as informative as the original one. It just kind of rolls through really starts very back at the beginning and just it's basically just a list that scrolls. I mean, again, it's every race and that's all cool. I hope that he's going to end up going back and maybe doing like decades, like he said he was going to do. I know he got some help from somebody, which allowed him to be able to calculate all of this. And it's pretty neat as you watch through. You know, you hit segments and you'll see guys that will pop up and for 10 or 12 races they're number one and then they drop off. And somebody else pops up for 10 or 12 races, they drop off. It was yeah, it's pretty neat. And he's right. You know, when you get into the years where you got the Bush series starts to explode and then the truck series and as he calls it, it's basically farming. So you've got those guys, you'll see the guys that that ran all three series. Just their I rating just continues to climb. Look, we're iRacers. We look at I rating, and that's kind of how we judge people as to what their skill level is in the game. So I think it's pretty neat to kind of see that, try to parlay that into the real world. If you were to rank everybody, how would they show up?
2020, it was Kevin Harvick, 7,000 I rating. 2021, still Harvick, it's around the 6,000s. 2022, I see Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson's name, Denny Hamlin, all around the high 5,000s. Going forward, there's Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin again, 5,800. Coming into 2024, I see Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, and Chase Elliott right here in July of 2024 at 5,962.
What surprised me though is as I'm watching this and they get into the 2000s, and I'm like, all right, Kyle Busch is probably just going to freaking explode with the amount of races and with 200 wins in across all three series. I was like, this guy has got to probably get 8, 9, 10,000 I rating. No, never does.
But look at the title. It's Cup races only. It's not looking at all those others.
That's not what he said. I mean, he
he said something different.
Yeah, I mean,
Jimmy Johnson would have gone up higher too.
Yeah, he said the 2000s because of the farming and the Xfinity and the truck series. Like I said, I hope he goes back and kind of does it. He said he was going to do basically a decade or so at a time. I think that would be cool because the way he did the first video, he kind of walked through it and you'd see, Lee Petty just kind of ticking up. And it was, to me, that was a lot more interesting than the way he put this one together.
Probably do need to ask for clarification though, because the title doesn't agree with what he said in the video. So what was he counting? Was he counting all the truck races or not? I think he may have said one thing. I'd like to know.
If I was a marketing manager at iRacing, I'd have this cool idea like, let's get NBC or Fox to, when they show the drivers, face on screen or their profile or, where they show how many wins, maybe they show the little iRacing logo and next to it, their I rating. Maybe their real I rating or maybe this proposed I rating thing. I don't know. It'd be kind of neat.
What do you want to do, like when they release the Madden scores and their player things, like what their attributes are, and then they get pissed off like the players do when they don't get the right rating?
Look, I mean, the fans would dig that up, though.
In sports like individual sports like tennis and golf, they have essentially a rating. They have a ranking based on their most recent tournaments over a period of time, which determines whether they're ranked number one. It ends up establishing. It ends up establishing. It's spread out over more than a calendar year, I think, but it ends up establishing what seed they get when they go into each tournament, right? Just like it tells you what card number you're going to get in. So this is not something that's actually unique to iRacing. It's just that's basically what the I rating is your running ranking.
I guess one follow-up question: does somebody know, out of all the active Cup drivers, who has the actual highest oval I rating out of all of them?
Like
real life or game?
In iRacing?
In iRacing, right?
Ty Majeski.
But no, out of the Cup drivers, the 40 Cup drivers, yeah.
It would have been Dale Jr.'s old account, wouldn't it have? Not his second one he started?
Yeah, but he's not a Cup driver anymore.
Well, yeah, okay, active, I guess, yeah.
Hope
Who's
listeners, if you figure it out, hit us up in Discord.
Somebody will figure it out. Let us know, and we'll talk about it next week.
All right, Greg, are ovals easy considering you're the road king?
I never get that title anymore. Do I get to talk about that being that or no? Anyways, there's DJ EJ again makes another video, I guess a training video he's doing with another professional trainer. What's the guy's name? I'm trying to think of his name again.
Suelo Almeida.
Suelo Almeida. Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, I butchered that. I apologize. I've watched his videos. I just can't say his name. I'm horrible with his name, but I want to say he's a fellow Canadian as well.
He's really good coach on the roadside.
Yeah. His coaching. I've watched some of his road coaching because I went through some of his braking videos on how to master the art of braking. And but yeah, so DJ EJ was going over the oval side with him and trying to get him accustomed to driving habits in the oval series. I haven't really watched the whole video, but it looks like he was doing pretty good from it.
Well, I think he picked it up pretty well. And this is a good video for listeners to take a look at because you're going to learn some really good things on cornering, braking. I kind of got lost in it thinking, I forgot, what he was doing with another guy and just thought, wow, I've been doing this all wrong for so long. So it's a good watch.
It is, because DJ EJ is literally, giving us the lesson as he gives it to Suelo. He's telling him how to enter the corner and do this and that, like John said. And those are life lessons. I mean, it's even good for me to hear something like that because I still do this stuff wrong. Great video.
Next up, John, we have a question about whether a pass is clean or not.
Yeah, so we've got a post here, which for some reason is not showing up on my screen. But somebody was at
wait. Even though we're live, I'm going to cut this one out. I forgot we're supposed to skip this one. I didn't realize what it was. So yeah, we'll cut that. Sorry, John.
That's all right. I'm back on track here.
So, all right. This next topic we should probably cover, me and Greg and Brad, since we participated in it. What a weekend we had. This is a tweet from iRacing. Thank you to all the iRacers who showed up for Spa. 2,646 teams, 10,549 drivers, completed 4 million miles, and served 4,329 drive-through penalties.
Hey, we didn't get any of those.
Yeah, you tried to set us up to have to serve one, man. I get on and there's already 20X after 2 hours.
That was me on my end of rain stint. The rain was just bad.
No, we started with 20X at the very beginning.
No. I did 10. I turned the car over in 10.
And then Justin did another 13.
I get it, but look, I was allowed 20.
8, didn't he? Did Justin do 13 by the end? 'Cause he had 8
yes, I got in the car. When we got in the car, I had 23X.
Okay, but again, 100 is a penalty. 5 guys on the team. That's 20 apiece.
Look, when I used to run these things, you would count 40 for me and then 10 or 15 for everybody else.
So, look, we had a good time. I've done quite a bit of reading on the forums, and it seems like the weather was kind of all over the place, depending on what the splits were. I think one split was virtually almost 20 hours of rain. I think one split didn't have any rain. Well, not split, shouldn't say, but I guess races. Start time, yeah. Didn't have hardly any rain. We had a lot well into it. Ended up being in the morning was when we got ours.
Right at sunrise.
Yep. So, and I did the bulk of that. I did about 2.5 hours or so in the heavy rain. Greg got in it after me as it was trying to dry and still spitting in different areas.
It
But
worked.
look,
It worked out that way.
yeah, that's
I
where it
think I
worked
was the
out.
one who ended up switching to the dries.
Yeah, it was enough for me to dry the track for Dave to get into dries.
But look, at the end of the race, we ended up with a seventh place finish. Everybody made a few mistakes. It is what it is. And look, if you watch the real races, even the teams that finish in the top five still make mistakes and they screw up. I had some spins. Justin had a exiting pit penalty. The rain was a challenge. But I was kind of happy, and it was much easier. I told Greg it was actually easier driving when in the driving rain, in the hard rain, than compared to when it was starting to lighten up, because it would be different almost every lap. It was heavy rain here, no rain here, and it was very difficult.
That's what I was struggling with. Is parts of the tracks where I couldn't tell if the tires were hot or it was actually the fact that the track was there was still a puddle there or something like that I hit. And David had come in right with probably what a full stint for me to drive left. David, you came back on, and I was struggling in that last stint, but I was also up for 24 hours. I had I had stayed up almost 24 hours to get to that point. We did have almost one of the biggest things happen to us, which I'm glad it didn't happen. Um, Justin was on his last lap to switch it over to me in the morning to finish it off, and I had a power outage for 5 minutes. And thank God Justin was able to finish the race off, because I would have had to wait another stint for me to get in the car. But if him finishing it off was just a lot easier to do if he was okay with it. But thank God I didn't. I wasn't in the car, because if it would have died anywhere further from the pits, that would have been a long tow, and then whatever else happened with it, that's gonna get fixed.
Yeah, I figure with the mistakes we did, they were smaller than they could have been. There's been races where you spend an hour in the pits. I think we had about 15 minutes worth of mistakes. So I think if we had kept those mistakes out of there, we might have been in the top five. But seventh is still very good in a full field like that.
Yeah, 49 entries. We started 26th. So
We were fifth through seventh for probably 12 to 15 hours.
Question on the weather. You mentioned different weather patterns on the different start times. That's different than the regular racing when it's not a special event, right? Because the weekly racing, they're all the same weather, right?
no,
The
Oh, okay.
forecast percentage is set the same, but each time a race split is generated, it'll generate a weather pattern based on that forecast. And then all the splits will get that same weather pattern for that race alone. A lot of times you can run the sprint races and one will be completely wet and another one will be completely dry.
I do have to say, I commend iRacing. That weather, that was the first wet race that I've done like for that much distance. It is something special to drive in it and get through it. Brad, I don't know. Brad said his shirt was soaked, I guess, but he was so sweaty by the time it was done through his stint. I kind of was having holding onto the steering wheel too hard moments through the whole thing. Just a lot of times you just turn in and you don't know if the car is going to go where you want it to go, and it was just something special. I was telling the guys the next morning, that was the most fun that I've had in a while. It was great to do it with all of us from the team that did it, and I look forward to the next one.
And every inch of the track is modeled to be either wet or dry, and based on what's happening on the track, right? Because you see the dry spot form, and there were puddles that were there at the end of the race, even though it hadn't rained for 4 hours. The puddles were still there. You
yeah,
you could not race the S's the same way when it's full dry, because you couldn't get up on the curb.
yeah. That's the one thing I noticed. I got on in the morning, and caught, Justin was finishing up and Greg was supposed to get in the car. And then when Greg couldn't get in the car, I hung with Justin for a little bit and I'm watching and I'm like, son of a gun. I said, there's puddles still on the track. I mean, right at the curbing where you normally would run, daggone it, there's a puddle there. So that was really cool.
We have a video here as well showing Max Verstappen doing an outlap in the dark. And it's kind of cool to just see him do his thing. We have a story later about Max that we'll talk about, but we also have some stats on the race from iRacing. So what is it? 10,549 driver entries.
Yeah, I called that out when I introduced the topic, the whole tweet. Right. We don't have any finished stats though, do we? Any of that stuff? Grand Chelams and etc.
No, I mean,
That stuff.
Yeah, no, I know that Team Redline had two cars. They were in the same time slot we were, and they ended up winning. So, or first and second is what they finished.
10,000 people devoted a day, planning on devoting a day to racing on a sim. It's just, if you think about it, it's just nuts.
But in actuality, if you got a team of 4 or 5, you don't give up the whole day. I mean, I know there are some people who like to sit there the whole 24 hours. I'm going to go do other things and come back because that's, you're supposed to get your rest or that's kind of the whole point of the team racing too, is that you're not stuck at the computer or in the car for 24 hours.
Yeah. When I've done 24s, it's like usually 2 or 3 people in the Discord. Like we'd have Bobby as a spotter almost, and Bobby would stay there the whole time. And then a couple of us would be in there, but we would cycle in and out as our shifts end. Yeah.
All right, what's this next one, Brad?
So we had a post on X from Umar. Says, love doing these races just to get wrecked for Shane Van Gisbergen's entertainment. Every race he's in, he does this stuff, and there's nothing any of us can do about it. So he's got a video.
Can I stop you for a sec, Brad?
Yeah, go ahead.
I jumped the gun on this article. There was another video posted, I forgot to share it with the team, of the car that's right behind Shane Van Gisbergen. It's very, like the guy says in this post, it's very easy to give this angle with no rear view camera. Shane's being pushed by another car into that corner. Like full on, he's like locked to his bumper.
Well, I mean, that's why I said in the title, I think we need to know the camera angle. I mean, again, it's very easy to show one side of the video. So when you watch the video, it definitely looks like, Shane just throws it in there, but it's like anything else. I mean, there's always more to the story than what we typically see. I mean, think about a NASCAR race. You got multiple angles, and how many times do the guys in the booth get it wrong the first time when they look at something until they can see another angle? So, look, at the end of the day, I'm probably going to take SVG's side over Umar. I don't know who Umar is, but Shane's got a little bit more of a pedigree, in my opinion.
He also doesn't have a reputation for racing like that.
That's my point. Look, when you say that somebody is pushing him into the corner and knocked him into that guy Omar, well, I believe that because look, we all saw what Shane can do at Chicago in the Xfinity car. I mean, he was tiptoe dancing around that place. I mean, the guy has got mad skill. He didn't just wreck that guy for entertainment. But anyway, a couple things. You don't want to call out another racer, especially publicly on Twitter, even if it is, a NASCAR star like Shane Van Gisbergen.
Next up is a quick hit. Exocross is now available worldwide on Steam and PlayStation. We'll see you on Proteus, and we have a trailer on the post.
Yeah, and then we have a video A couple of them, yeah. Anyway, I watched another one. I don't think it's on here. From Radman, and he actually played it, and he for the first time and kind of walked us through it and the settings and different things, the different worlds and tracks you can pick to race, and kind of gives you a first-hand look at the back end of it, not just the gameplay. And yeah, I think I'm probably going to wait on this one.
I might see if I can talk our esports team at school into trying this out.
Yeah, I'm going to buy it for the grandkids so I can play it.
I love the justification. That's the best part of it.
Honey, it's not for me.
All right, Greg, are you feeling a little damaged?
This video just hurts. It leaves me damaged by watching it. But iRacing has put out a post on YouTube that the new damage model is now the only damage model, and pretty much just crashed everything. They just destroy everything.
So let's talk about the new
playing
damage.
in the background.
How did they do on the new damage model? Compare it to the old one. Are you guys? Is it living up to expectations? I mean, I really feel like it is. I mean, I still want to see smoke and like flames. Like there are fires sometimes, but I know for legal reasons they don't do that. But other than that, I really don't have any complaints.
All right. Well, on the NASCAR side, I do, because every accident that you're in iRacing, somebody loses the entire front clip. That doesn't happen. I cannot think the last time that I've seen an accident in either of the 3 series and I see the whole front fascia just go flying off a car. That's probably my biggest complaint. It's a little too much at times.
The thing I think that is really needed for it, like they got to back the parts that come off the car, because parts just don't come off stock cars. They kind of do, but they're not as much as we have in here. But what they really need on I mean, there is things break off on like F1 cars and the Formula cars, but they also need to incorporate flat tires with that, because they're more susceptible of getting flats and things like that when you're running over the debris or when you're in things like this. It's but like even that wreck they show at Bristol, there's a lot of body panels that just don't come off cars there.
I'd love for us to not even be able to finish even less races in the overcrowded racing in the A car.
I like the tire idea though, flat tires or flat spotted tires, like properly flat spotted. Like
Yes.
you just smoked your tires because you held them down, and yeah.
They need to have that for the roadside.
I think really even the
well, yeah, like
the oval side. Look, I think it's to watch the video. It's fantastic. Okay, I mean it's crazy. I didn't realize that cars blew up that much, because 9 times out of 10, when someone's wrecking in front of me, I'm not looking at the debris flying. I'm trying to avoid the car. But sometimes I think it is a little bit to the extreme, especially on the oval side and the stock cars. They just don't explode pieces like that.
Well, if you look at a cup car, when it crashes into the wall, it crunches and stays to crunch. It doesn't pop pieces off. Like you don't even see, like we've had some wrecks where there's tires come off the car, but even then, if it's a really hard wreck, NASCAR cup cars don't lose tires unless they're just not attached properly.
Didn't they start tethering them?
Well, everything has tether. The hoods have tethers. The rear deck lid has a tether on it. Like they're meant not to lose any of the parts when they're in an accident.
Well, speaking of tethers, Red Bull might want to tether some of Max's off-track activities. What?
Bullshit! 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 Red Bull thinks that they can control Max. They're wrong.
in the world of Formula One news over this week, I mean, this is what people talk about. I mean, we have a quote from Marco that basically says, "We agreed he would no longer run simulations so late in the future." After Max ran as late as 3 a.m. up to 3 a.m. at the Spa, 24 hours before going and finishing fifth in his actual F1 race.
It's funny how this wasn't a same article when he won the race the last time he did it. It's great when you lose. It's one thing. It's not when you win, I guess.
And we have a reply from him saying that he has not been banned from late night sim racing.
Red Bull gave him $40 or $50 million a year to drive the car. What he does outside of it, I don't think they have any. They get to tell him anything he does unless it's something that's detrimental to the team PR wise. And
I think
what
they're
he
trying
did,
to say that.
what he did is, what if? Here's the thing that I have a problem with it. Yeah, he was up late racing. What was the other guys doing? Who's to say they went to bed at 8 o'clock and got full night's sleep? Half of them are dads. What if they have newborn kids and they cried all night, and they didn't get any sleep? Like, what does it matter?
They're up on their phone.
Yeah,
they're up on their phone.
They can't sleep anyway because they got a race. They're thinking about it.
Like, these guys are the best in the world. They race for 2 hours out of the day for an F1 race. Max Verstappen is on another planet when it comes to driving most of the time. Yeah, he had a horrible race on Sunday. But
wasn't he actually involved in some contact?
Yeah, he made a racing move that didn't work, and he lost out on it. They all make mistakes, right? They're drivers, they're humans. He's gonna just wait till this weekend. He has a 10 place grid penalty to start Spa, so even if he gets the pole, he's starting 11th.
So,
I got a quote. I'm going to read the quote here real quick, Brad, from Max. He says, quote, "We talked about it. There is no other sim race coming up anyway, so no one needs to worry about that. So no, it's not that I have a ban or whatever. I also don't need to tell them what they do in their private time and during the weekends, and that's the same to me. Racing till 3 a.m. is not something new, and it's something very important in my life."
I wonder if Christian Horner, when he was harassing that woman, was up till 3 a.m. doing it late at night.
So look, I was thinking about this. We know how prolific Max is, and if you start to think about it, if you started to look at the amount of time that he does certain things, I really think F1 is like the part-time job for him. He spends less time in an F1 car than he does in the sim. So perhaps they've got it flipped, but look, the NASCAR side, we understand there's contracts when you sign with a team to the guys that they can't go run sprint cars, they can't go do some of the crazy stuff that they used to do. But I mean, what's going to happen?
Yeah, but tell me this: who has more power, Red Bull or Max Verstappen in this situation? Red Bull can get rid of him. Who do you think's gonna? Which F1 team's not gonna gobble him up if they can?
Right? Odo's waiting, gobbling. He'll gobble him up.
So Max doesn't have a problem. If this is, I don't know,
Sargent.
No, not Sargent. I was gonna say let's look at this NASCAR way. Is there any driver on that grid that has more power than the owner of the team?
Yeah, not really.
So like, if Denny
perhaps
if Denny Hamlin said to Joe Gibbs "fuck you" or whatever, to "f you" to the
yeah, maybe Denny, that's it, because he has his own team.
But can anyone else from that, like C-Bell, can he say, "Hey, screw you, I'm gonna go race, I don't care what you say"? He said, and Joe Gibbs said, "Get out," right? It's F1's a bit different.
He'd have options. We have the 7 car open now. Look, I want to read a couple more little quotes from Max. For example, in Imola, I do win the race, both of them. I've been doing this since 2015. So for me, this is not something that is any different in my preparation. I mean, I've won 3 world championships. I think I know pretty well what I can and cannot do. I'm always very hard on myself on what is allowed and isn't allowed. So I think with all the experience I have in Formula One, I know quite well what is possible.
Look, Max is one of my favorite race car drivers. It's Red Bull has been on the decline a little bit here at the end of the season. I can see that there's a little bit of pushback from fans and things like that. But no offense, most of the people that are criticizing him, and if you look at that race, it's all the British media that's going after him with a lot of this stuff and all these sites. It, it's the Hamiltons, it's the Norris, all the people saying that that he needs to stop doing this. It's not his fans.
Look, at least they're not asking him to let Checo by.
Well, then both Red Bulls aren't even finishing in the top 15 right now.
All right, next up, John, we have a nice disability story with featuring, I guess, iRacing and disability hardware or accessibility hardware, I guess is a better word.
Yeah, so iRacing has done a good job, for coming up with adaptations for iRacers with some limitations. And so the FIA Disability and Accessibility Commission President Natalie McGloin did an iRace, first iRace, and she got a P5 in her official race. And there's a little video on X. It shows that she's using the same controls that she's got in her Porsche Cayman race car. It's a feel good story to see that, iRacing is a world that's open to a lot of people. And if you've got limitations, in fact, iRacing, I think, has a forum section on iRacing and disabilities. And I think this is an awesome opportunity for people to get in and do this. She's got it's all hand controls, and she must be pretty darn good at it to get a P5 in the first race.
It's pretty neat too. That it's basically a lever. We used to have a driver's ed car that had the same equipment, and you could actually push it one way for the gas and one way for the brake. And then it actually had a knob on the steering wheel as well, where they could just turn the steering wheel with one hand the whole time. But it's pretty neat because it's actually attached. The lever system is actually attached to racing pedals that are actually sending in the data.
There are also hydraulic pedals too.
Cool. Look, when people have disabilities and accessibility issues and that kind of thing, lots of times they feel like, I can't do anything anymore. But when you get involved in sim racing, you can. I have a really good friend that used to be on this podcast and team long ago, Carlos Fonseca, who races with a controller because he has a disability. It's not that he can't use it. He literally can't use a steering wheel and pedals. He doesn't have the mobility for it, but he does have the mobility to use like a Xbox controller. And look, we've all raced Carlos. He's good. His iRating's what, 4,500 or something.
Very good.
One of the best racers when we race in the Winter Series with him.
And we got a teammate who has visual aids enabled now, since he is having trouble seeing these days.
That's correct. You can, Joe, I think he's okay with us talking about, but Joe has some sight issues, and he contacted iRacing, and they turned on this setting that David is referring to that allows him to be able to see just enough to race and be a little bit dangerous, because Joe's a little bit dangerous, but to actually get involved again when he couldn't. He actually took several months off because he couldn't see.
Yeah, and I'm happy for Joe in that, because he invested a lot of money in some really good equipment. I think he's got a motion sim, if I'm not mistaken. And
Yeah,
so
he's got everything.
Yeah, so I think it's great that they were able to help Joe out.
His shifter's about as expensive as my brakes.
After he also sold everything and then rebought a whole new setup again, because this is his second time through a setup, because he He left iRacing a couple years ago for a while.
Look, there's whether it's sim racing or real racing, there's people that end up needing something. I think of Alex Zanardi, you know, extremely talented in a very bad accident, and Alex still races today. It's all hand controls. He's run GT races. Um, it's just again that I think this is super cool.
What's that
I love it.
IndyCar driver's name? The Canadian. I can't think of his name. He was.
Oh, he got the back issue, right? He's in a wheelchair.
Because he went up into the. Wasn't it Pocono? He was up in the fence and it spun so quickly it caused him paralyzed.
I know who you're talking about. I can't remember his name.
All right, we got a couple of job openings. Help wanted, quality assist or quality assurance console specialist. You need to be, I guess, it's full time, and you need to be eligible for U.S. employment on that one. And there's also another one for quality assurance tester. I guess that one is just a general tester. Same thing, full time, eligible for U.S. employment. I'm guessing that means you'd need to be able to move to Boston.
I think it's the first time we've seen a job title with the word console in it.
Well, I mean, look, we know what's coming next year, so
They're definitely going to have to hire some staff to look after that side to make sure there's quality for it, right? Because to get accredited to put them on both PlayStation and Microsoft Xbox platforms, there's a lot of accrediting that you have to that you have to pass from Sony and Microsoft to get through to them.
Well, if you like testing and are looking for a job in the gaming industry, this is a good option, especially if you like racing.
Also, that driver that I was thinking of, Mike, it's Robert Wickens.
Oh yeah, Wickens. That's right. And he's done well for himself, being paralyzed in the racing community, right?
Yeah,
he's kind of recovered his career.
Isn't he driving the Chevy Cruze or something? It's got hand controls that he's been in the touring series.
Yeah, he's got a full-time ride. I don't remember exactly where it is, but yes.
All right, we have a post from iRacing with a question. What series do you think currently provides the best racing on iRacing? And this I know is going to cause a good argument because we already had one in the chat.
Did anybody solve the argument in the chat though? It just was so much hate.
I don't know if I can give my explanation. But it's true. We'll just go with that.
This was a lively debate in our chat this week. I think I heard the most Xfinity or B car was probably the one most teammates mentioned. For me personally, I mean, I'm going to say NIS. I'm going to say F4 because that's what I run. I think outside of that, I'd probably say the 87s or the Gen 4. Looking at the comments that other people say, I mean, there's everything under the sun. Every series iRacing has is listed here in the comments. There's no consensus at all.
There's been definitely always been arrow push, and there's always going to be an advantage for the leader. But I really, in the real world and in iRacing, it's just the lack of horsepower just sucks. It's on the especially on the big ovals, but even on the short tracks, it's just it's plate racing everywhere, and it's just not enjoyable anymore to watch or to race. So I've bought the B car. I didn't even own the B car. It'd been so long since I drove one. So I'm gonna try that for a while and let you know how it goes.
The only time that I felt like some of the racing's been enjoyable, like 100% enjoyable for me, is like all the special events. Like it's not even a series, it's more of the bigger events where you're, you know, the team events are the ones that I felt that are I've had more fun with the IMSA stuff and the roadside. I would never. I don't think there's an oval side that I would say provides the best racing, because the problem is, like David said, the product's not great right now to provide great racing. You're you're doing your best not to make a mistake or lose uh, any momentum. It's all momentum based, and once you lose momentum, either you block to try and stop somebody from getting to you, or you just give up the position, and then you fight somebody else off that loses momentum, and they do the same thing back. It's I I don't know if there's an actual, like, obviously you see in the things here there's not a consensus answer, but I don't think there is an answer. It's just whatever you're gonna have fun with racing is the answer.
Yeah, it's subjective, and I mean, I think that's what I said in the chat. It depends on who you're racing with. I mean, there's times where we have great NIS races, and there are times where they're just terrible. But I would second what you said, Greg, about the special events and the team stuff. If it wasn't to get even in an NIS race, if it wasn't for being in the chat with 4 or 5 teammates and us chit chatting and talking while we're doing it, someone would be absolutely miserable. It's who you get to know, and it's the friends, and it's the fellowship that you get, doing this. I think is where I get the most enjoyment out of any of it. The racing's what it is, but we're a group of guys that all get along, and it's fun to hang out on a Wednesday night or a Friday night and talk while we're racing.
Well, one place that we expect we should be able to have a fun race is our race. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it, John?
You bet. And the listeners, sign up for this. We're going to have the iRacers Lounge Dega 200. We're going to run the Gen 4 Cup car. It's going to be Wednesday, July 31st, 9 p.m. Eastern. We've got a link in the show notes to where you can sign up for this. This is open to the listeners. These are always fun races. Sometimes we get a lot, sometimes we don't, but this is going to be a fun race. So everybody sign up for this thing, get involved. We'll get in the chat together, get on the Discord channel. We talk to each other during the race. We have a lot of fun. We're competitive, but fun.
If you sign up on the Google Doc so we kind of know how many people are coming, you'll also get the link to the Discord that we want you to join when you race with us. So that's the fun with it. You get to basically join the Discord with us, and we're all talking and racing. Let's fill the room, guys. I put the graphic and the link up on social media before the show. So go find it and put your name in there.
That's a good poster.
We have some great graphics people on the team here.
What else is happening this week, Brad?
So this week in iRacing, we've got some of the normal series. NIS is off this week. We'll continue to have the F4 FIA regional tour. And the Americas are at Lime Rock Park. Asia Pacific's at Phillip Island Circuit. And then Europe is at Motorland Aragon. The Nürburgring Endurance Championship is back. This week we've got 5 different classes. GT3s. Also running the TCR class, along with the GT4, and then the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup, along with the Toyota GR86. And also got the Skip Barber qualifier is at VIR Grand. So again, we talked about this before. This is a registration and entry fee required in order to compete. So there's a hot lap qualifier. And again, it's $20. The top 20 drivers in the time attack it will be invited to run each race. And again, this gives you an opportunity to win, qualify rather, for a what is it? Not a sponsorship.
Brad, I'm gonna interrupt you. I'm sorry. I just this entry fee rubs me the wrong way. Look, if this was Jeff Ford, putting up a hosted cash race and taking $20 a head to do a time trial just to get into the race with no guarantee to get in, we'd all be calling him out for it, And I don't know. If you have a sponsor like Skip Barber, sponsor it, pay for it in a way where you don't ask for money. That's my
Okay.
take.
All right. Well, I get it. But you are competing for prizes valued over $500,000 and the opportunity, to run in the Skip Barber Formula Race Series next year. So there's a great opportunity for somebody who's going to be quick.
Yeah, I guess so.
This is probably the first time I think we've actually had a pay to race series like this. So yeah.
That was an official series.
Right.
Well,
It's official, and it's a pay. You have to pay it.
It's a qualifier. I think that's the difference.
All right. I didn't mean to interrupt, but please continue.
You're good. You're good. We got the normal rain masters and ring master and draft master. So for those guys that are normal NIS drivers, it's an off week. So go find some other stuff to run.
So I had a question on one of these events, this Martinsville MX 500, or they're going to use the MX car. Has anybody ever run something like this at Martinsville before?
I've played around with it. Now, that's the next one down the list here to cover, actually, John. If you scroll down, you'll see the poster. Great poster, by the way. But this is coming up August 2nd through the 4th, and MX 500 at Martinsville. Now, I think I'm definitely going to participate. Our special event is on the 31st. This will be the 2nd through the 4th, so kind of over the weekend, next weekend.
Yeah, so 500 laps. It's going to be a long one, but the Global MX5 is actually going to race this fall at Martinsville. So, and like we've got in the title there, just remember this happened here first. I think Mooncar did a 24-hour race here last year in iRacing. So they were out last year, tested. MX5 came here and tested. Dale Jr. was one of the guys. I think Dale Jr. I think Bobby Labonte tested the cars. So while it's going to happen in real life, you get to do it here first. But it should be fun. I mean, heck, it's a fixed race, 500 laps. I'm sure it's going to be quite a bit of chaos.
The incident limit is 35 for the drive-through.
Well, I think you better have about 6 hours of time set aside to do this if it's the usual Martinsville Caution Fest.
So there were people in the thread speculating on how long it would take and so forth. They said 3.5 hours, but I don't know if they're counting all the yellows you're counting on, John.
Yeah, I mean, I assume, I don't know, do these cars have the same speed as, say, the Cup or the B cars, or a little bit slower?
Oh, much slower.
Yeah, they're slower.
And you probably got better braking on these cars.
This is the rookie road car.
But it's a fantastic car.
They'll probably run the Friday night version.
So, yeah, quick calculation, 25-second laps, 500 laps, about 3.5 hours. So, I mean, it's about what a normal full distance NIS race is. There you go.
And then,
one more thing, David. I want to mention this is the first time we've done this in iRacing, and so it's something to say. Hey, I remember I did that the first time we did that in iRacing. So years from now, you'll want to say, hey, I participated in that crazy race at Martinsville. So that's kind of one of the reasons I want to do it. This is kind of historic. It's something new.
And the final event on the list is Nürburgring Endurance Round 5. Did you mention that in the calendar?
I did, sir.
Okay. So he already covered it, even though it's on the script as well, which moves us on to the podcast housekeeping.
Leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform to make it easier for more listeners to find us. Mention the podcast to your fellow drivers so they don't miss out. We do appreciate that. Check out our Discord. We got hardware discussions going on over there, all kinds of stuff. Brad's recommending USB hubs to people, and there's all kinds of activity. Don't forget our show notes at iRacersLounge.com, and we're in regular rotation at Performance Motorsports Network. And we have merchandise, iRacersLounge.shop.
All right, we still got the Indy results for fantasy, and there's a mic on top.
Yeah, so we had out of Indianapolis, Mike Owuju took the win. Actually, had tied for first place, all 233 points. Mike Wuju, AJL 14, Cletus 545. Fourth was Don't Mind Me, and then rounding out top five was Chris Bates. Shout out to teammate Fat Boy 1990 with the 10th place finish. So, Indy, were we surprised? I don't think so. It's Cup cars on Indianapolis. We know what we're going to get. It's a one lane, it's a one groove track. I didn't expect anything outside of what we saw.
No surprises, and yeah, I think even at the end of the race, NASCAR waiting to get that white out before throwing the yellow. I mean, there was no surprise there either, based on who was leading.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but I agree. Look, as bad as I guess some of the oval races can be, I'm glad they're back on the oval. Never a fan of the road course there, not for stock cars. If you're going to go to Indianapolis, you need to run the oval, just from the prestige standpoint of it. It's Indianapolis, so like we talked, it's a crown jewel for the Cup guys. There's only a handful of them that have all of them, so some of them have won multiple times. Just a handful: Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson. I think that's it for multiple time winners. So, again, not a bad race. The shenanigans towards the end was a bit frustrating, but it's NASCAR. The only thing they're consistent at is being completely inconsistent.
And with the off week, I mean, the real talk is silly season. The 7 car announced Corey LaJoie's done. I think his Cup career is done. I don't think anyone's going to take him on. At this point, maybe he can get a ride in Xfinity or something. But who's the favorite for the 7? I think with SVG at Trackhouse, they have that other guy who needs a seat. Maybe he ends up there. But there's even people on the internet saying, even though Kyle Busch has a contract, Kyle Busch is probably calling up Spire.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's signed through next year with RCR. Look, Spire had 4 drivers and basically had 3 charters, so something was going to have to give, especially after they signed McDowell. But look, I'm not surprised Corey's going to go. We've talked about in the chat. He's been in the longest, and he's being outrun every single week by Hocevar. Hocevar's ahead of him in the points, even with a points penalty from his incident, I think, at Nashville. So I think this was a year for Corey to step up and show what he could do, and he's been in the back. He's continued to be Corey LaJoie. So. But as we round out, leaving Indianapolis, our league standings, we still got Canadian in first with 43.41, followed by Dollar Cents at 42.67. iRacing Masons in third. And again, another shout out to teammate Tyler Williamson with Fat Boy 1990 is holding tight in 10th spot.
Also, don't forget we have a 2-week break. So when 2 weeks comes up, don't forget to get your new picks in. With the break, there will be quite a few people who probably do forget. All right, John, let's open up hardware software with the Moza Vision GS reviews.
So this is a new wheel from Moza. Comes in at $750. When I first saw this thing, I mean, it's shaped like a pair of goggles. that you would see somebody jumping out of a plane to parachute with. But we've got a couple of reviews on it. We've got one from Sean. Is it Sean Cole from SimPit? He does a full-on review of it. This is kind of different. What he pointed out about this, I don't know of any other wheel that has this, but it has buttons on the back of the wheel that you can, with your ring finger and your pinky, that you can hit. But you guys use these kind of wheels. I mean, what do you think about this thing?
Well,
Look,
it reminds me of the Bentley
butterfly.
wheel.
Yeah,
Right?
the Bentley wheel that never released, right? From Fanatec. Yeah, Fanatec teased a wheel 3 years ago, and it was a Bentley, and it had this round display that would stay upright, gyroscope style, no matter how you turn the wheel. And it was the time we've ever seen that. Now Moza has actually brought to production and for sale, and at a reasonable price, under $1,000, the same thing. Basically, a round display that's got a gyroscope situation where it always stays upright no matter which way you turn the wheel. And like John said, it's got a butterfly design for the rim, some unique, button placement on the back, chip carbon fiber look, built-in LED strip along the top in the actual wheel. It's nice for the price. This is very nice.
It's interesting. I'll leave it at that. Not something I would go for, but it's expensive. I mean, but it's
Eye
odd.
candy.
Yeah, it's
Right.
odd.
Compared to a lot of the wheels we've covered, it's not that expensive. It's about half as much as a lot of the high dollar ones.
That's
Yeah.
true.
And that's what Sean Cole said. I mean, he said for $750, you're going to get a wheel that has things on it that other wheels are going to charge you $1,400 for. So price wise, not too bad.
I don't know. I mean, from an immersion standpoint, the circular display in the middle is just odd. I mean, there's nothing out there that does that. I mean, if you're going to have a DDU on your wheel, it's going to be square, or it's going to be at least of a rectangle. It's not going to be that odd shape. It's not going to be round and then gyroscope as you drive. So
We're gonna have to come up with some kind of conformist soundtrack for you.
It's a touch screen too, and you can cycle through there's 5 or 6 different displays that you can just click your finger on it and just cycle through them. They have their own software to drive it. Yeah, to your point, Brad, is there a real? It doesn't even look like a real wheel. There is no real wheel that's like this out there,
Except
but
Bentley.
it's still kind of neat.
yeah.
Bentley wheel does.
What was that?
One of the titles in the chapters is this a Bentley clone?
Well, again,
I think it is, but Fanatec never brought it to production.
There's a real Bentley wheel that does that in a real Bentley car.
Okay,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I get it, but again, I don't know if I'm a conformist. It's just I like immersion, so I want to. I mean, that's what we try to do. Why do we spend all this money? Because we try to recreate something real in a fantasy world. That's what we do. I mean, let's be honest, guys.
So you have to be a Bentley fan. Pretty much, just about, because it's a Bentley design, right? It's whereas every other design is square.
To Brad's point, I would take that AMG Mercedes wheel we saw for $3,000 over this any day, because it's the actual wheel. It's the actual wheel that they use in the Formula One car, and the design is the same. Now the only thing that throws me off on it is there's a little bit of delay on that screen going upright as you're turning the wheel left and right. It's a little delay, and that delay throws off my, it throws me off just a little. I don't know if that would drive me nuts or not.
I would pass on both of them because I'm in VR.
Well, you could just cut a piece of wood and hook it to your base and go then.
Well, if you're in a spot in a race where you're cranking the wheel, you're not going to be looking down at that display anyway, are you?
No.
I'm never going to look down at it, really. I mean, if you think about it. It's more of a peripheral vision kind of thing,
Yeah. even in VR, I have the JRT timing, and I just about only take peeks to see my fuel status or if I'm gaining time on the guy behind me on straightaways. Right, I'm never looking at it in the corners.
Well, and that's what's kept me from wanting to get, a wheel with a DDU on, is because I know I'm not gonna. It sounds fantastic, and it's like, oh, that would be awesome. I'm looking forward. I'm not looking at not looking at the wheel when I'm racing.
You can use it on straightaways in road racing.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I use JRT to do that too, but again, it's the I don't know. I get too tight sometimes with money.
Well, look, that's why I ended up buying a Formula wheel with no screen on it, Brad, because I couldn't justify it.
Yeah, I mean, my GT wheel doesn't have a screen, so.
And JRT gives you a better option than most of the displays do anyway.
Now, there's a Will Ford video here too. He actually has the Fanatec Bentley wheel in his possession and shows it on this video. He's like, I hope I don't get in trouble for this because it hasn't gone to production, but he has a version of it that he's been sitting on.
How are they going to afford to sue him? All right, so it's a neat wheel if you want that circular thing. I agree. I don't like the lagginess in the circular thing either. Let's move on to the next thing. Brad, we have for those of you who are frugal, we have an Acetec summer deal.
Yeah, so we had a post on X from Acetec. Says, looking to try new motorsports disciplines? Check out our summer deal. So buy any new steering wheel and get a free wheel accessory. So you can get the suede handles. We talked about this. The way that Acetec is their ecosystem now is you basically have like a button box, the center part of the wheel, and then you can change out the handles to really almost completely change the type of wheel you've got. So you can do, the single post down on the handles, or they got the ones that wrap all the way around, and will turn it more into a GT wheel or a Formula wheel. So, you can explore the bundle configurator with Carl Goslin's discount code. So, pretty neat. Acetec is, they're continuing to work, I think, hard to get their name out there. Still, the overall design of the wheel is, in my eyes, is a bit funky looking, but that's just my opinion.
Kind of has a Batman-ish look almost to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's odd.
It's a plasticky look too, with the Acetec wheels. I've never been a fan of their actual wheels. I love the wheelbases though.
Well, if you like Porsche wheels, this might be the one for you. We've got a post from Grid Engineering, and this is a Porsche clone with the display and the whole 9 yards, and probably the price tag to go along with it.
Oh, I'd imagine it's going to be probably well north of $2,000. How much?
$2,250.
Yeah. So, look, after we talked about the Mercedes AMG wheel at 3,000, I knew we had to bring this wheel back to the show and talk about it again because this was the most expensive wheel out there until that one came out. Now, is this comparable to that Mercedes? Now that I've looked at both of them, I kind of like the Mercedes over the Porsche, to be honest.
Yeah,
Well, that's good because this one's sold out.
paying for the name on both of them.
Well, look, I'm not the only one that wanted to bring this to light. Grid Engineering, who puts out this wheel, they put out this post on Instagram and basically said, we've wrapped up testing on our V2 prototypes and production is underway. So look, if you're going to spend $2,000 to $3,000 on a wheel, you need to look at both the Porsche and the Mercedes.
Well, what if you're going to spend $2,000 to $3,000 on a monitor, Mike?
We got a great video from OC Racing who talks about the sim racing screen guide. He goes over single monitor, triple monitor, VR, widescreen, curves, that kind of stuff. Gives some recommendations as well. What do you guys think?
If you're looking to make changes to your monitor, I think it's a good one to watch. I mean, I'm a triples guy. Started out 20 years ago on a single screen and was like that for the most of my sim racing career was on a single screen. So, um, the VR stuff he brings up good points. Something I'd like to try. I just don't know if I could do it. For him, it's an eye strain thing, and he motion. He says that some people end up with motion sickness and stuff. So, again, I wish he would have gone into a little more detail. My issue with people that think ultra wides are great. Yeah, you get all of the left to right, but you got no vertical FOV at all. And that's the issue with ultra wides. So, but I think he touches all points of it.
If you're thinking VR, you definitely got to go to somebody who has it and give it a try before you invest in it.
Yeah, and that's why I would love to, some of these sim cafes and stuff that are open up, it would be cool if somebody's going to have one where they have VR as an option to try. I would definitely go down and spend 30, 40, $50 just to try it. Because I do think it would be really cool. I just don't know if, again, I have vertigo issues and I just don't know if I can handle it or not.
Especially on the roadside, it's so nice to be able to look down the apex. All right, we all are getting up there on age. I'm going to pick on you, John. Do you think you might need this next piece of hardware?
Yes, the answer is yes, I do. So SimSport Gadget has a sim rig handle you can put on your sim rig to help you get, in my case, out of it. Mine sets pretty low, but yeah, it's an installation guide on how to do that. So if you've got a 80/20, I think is what you need for this one, but it'll help get you out of it. It's like a handle on a car around to get out of a car. You can use this to get out of your rig. And people like me need this.
So we've talked about a bunch of stuff SimSport Gadget does. Look, it's almost all their stuff's 3D printed. I bought 2 or 3 things from them. They have all kinds of really cool stuff. So if you're looking for just oddball accessories that you need for your rig, and these are those things that aren't super expensive, but they are pretty neat.
I got my rig up on 4.5-inch caster wheels because I didn't want it down low and I wanted to be able to move it so I could clean the floor and various reasons. I don't have a need for a handle, but if I was had no wheels on it, I might want a handle on it actually.
Yeah, mine's on feet, so mine's sitting up about 4 inches. I when I was sim racing before, I was in an Obato that literally was you had to roll out of it to get out. That's how low it was to the ground, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that again.
I'm trying to find this on their page to get a price, and I'm not seeing it. Oh, that's because there's 92 accessories. And that's
Like you said, a bunch, yeah.
Yeah. I'll get you a price here in a second. I'll come back to you on the price while we talk about this next set of pedals from Acetec, Brad.
Yeah, so we got a review of the Acetec. I think these are the Invictas. Yeah, the Invicta S series, the brake and the throttle. This is from the Sim Racing Den. We did a video review, I say maybe 1 week ago, 2 weeks ago, on these. Kind of similar review. Good construction, very, very firm pedal on the brake. Some of the same kind of too firm. Yeah, I mean, again, you got to really want a real hard pedal, and that's everything I've read is a very short throw on the pedal. Which again, depending on what you're driving, you can get more modulation if you've got a short throw. Is how you control it.
Is it a load cell or hydraulic?
It's hydraulic with a.
Okay.
No, it's hydraulic with a pressure sensor.
Yeah.
Uses uses elastomers inside, but again, some of the same. He didn't complain as much as I can't remember who did the other video, but like the heel rest they have, I know for me it would drive me bonkers with the writing down there because it would probably just eat into my shoes. It's look again. I think he gives it a good review. He likes them, but everything that we've read, I've seen about these, it's either you love them or you don't like them, one of the two.
Well, pressure.
Yeah, what I remember.
Pressure instead of having to memorize a distance is a huge difference maker. Greg can testify to that freshly right now, especially after running Spa, right?
Yeah, and I was gonna ask you, David, do you run the stiffer pedal for the brake or the softer one?
I'm whatever he came with. I believe is pretty much the stiffest setting, right?
Yeah, it's the stiffer washers.
Yeah, it's those super stiff washers, and I mean, my throw is probably probably less than an inch. It's really tight.
Yeah, and
I mean,
like it
it's
that
so
way too.
it's so heavy that I have to wear shoes. It is actually painful on the foot to try to race with socks.
I found that when you have the pressure coming back, being pushed back at your foot, you find the threshold faster in the pedals instead of just like David was saying, you memorize a spot and you hope it doesn't lock up. Whereas my memory is okay. I push this far and I know that that's the pressure that it's still a muscle memory, but it also is there's something giving you a feedback back, which you don't have with the load cell. Load cell is just a point with no feedback unless it's got a spring that you're memorizing to. Whereas the pressure, you got something there to reference every time you get to it. And I found it was really helpful in the rain to have hydraulic pedals because you could find the slipping point. I know the cars we had ABS, but you could still find that threshold of you could go much further with the braking because you weren't worried, oh crap, I went too far on my angle of the pedal here and now it's locking up. You knew where the lockup was before you got to it.
I've had both, so and you're right, both are muscle memory. A good set of load cell pedals, is that set up properly? I think you still get that. If you've got that 80% is what you've got, and then that other 20% is the threshold that you're really working at. And it's the same thing with the pressure. You know, I had the same pedals that Mike had previously, the main performance sim pedals, and while they were hydraulics, the same thing. It's, you know, yes, you can find that, but I think you can find with a good set of load cells, I think you can find the same thing.
I think the key takeaway on this particular video with Ace Attack video pedals was he didn't like the that there was no throw distance on the pedal. It was just doesn't even move. Is I think what he said. And then the heel plate was obviously an ongoing issue for some people.
All right, we got time for one more topic. We're going to jump around on the script a little, though. If you're following along once the script's published, you won't know that. A little behind the scenes for you. But let's talk Intel. Are they having more trouble, Mike?
Yeah, proud to bring this up to our listeners in previous weeks. Look, it's come to a head, guys. There's many reports out that if you have an Intel 13th and 14th gen, you're going to have a failure. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And Intel has actually came out this week with a statement, basically acknowledging that they're going to rewrite some microcode that's controlling the voltage to the processor. Basically, the processor is asking the motherboards for more voltage than it should be. There's a little bit of finger pointing going back and forth between Intel and the motherboard manufacturers. That the manufacturers are saying, well, Intel's asking for the more voltage and we're giving it what it wants. And then Intel's saying, well, the motherboard should limit, the voltage to the spec. But anyway, the outcome is they're going to rewrite the microcode to patch it, basically. The way it'll be patched will be through the motherboard manufacturers. And so if you own an Intel 13th or 14th gen, you need to be watching your motherboard manufacturer's BIOS firmware updates page very closely. The sooner you get that done, the better. Now, one video, which I didn't get in here, from Jay's 2 cents that he published out just earlier today, he put out a video showing you what you should do now before the motherboard gets BIOS gets updated. Like he has some settings that you can change in BIOS to bring the voltage down to save your chip before it fries, or before the motherboard BIOS gets updated in mid-August, is when that will be coming. Uh, thank God I didn't buy one of these. Is the last thing I'll say.
Yeah, Mike, I was going to ask you about that. So I know you just got a new computer. You went with the Ryzen, I think, didn't you?
That's correct. The 7800 3X X3D.
So what, I know you do your research and you think this stuff through a lot when you do these things. For iRacers, does it really matter whether you've got Intel or Ryzen when it comes to performance for iRacing?
One's better than the other, but barely. That's what my research found.
It also depends on what you do outside of iRacing. If you want to stream and things like that, you pick a different one. I think the reason I went with AMD was because I stream.
Yeah, so AMD is just a little bit better on the benchmarks, is what I learned in our Discord chat from all our listeners. I was set for Intel. Um, they talked me out of it, basically. So I went with Ryzen, and I'm glad I did. One of the other reasons is the Intel. It was running really hot. It like I said, there's a voltage problem. It runs twice as hot as the Ryzen or something. It's some crazy number.
There's some forums and there's some threads on the iRacing forum talking about this. I've been watching it. I've got a 13th gen i7 when I built a computer last year, so yeah, I'm watching it. I haven't noticed anything, but so I'm concerned. I am.
I'm sitting on a 12th, and in case you don't know what your generation is, go to your start menu and hit system information, and it'll be right there. It says 12th generation or 13th generation, etc.
So Gamers Nexus, who's all over this. This is the guy with the long dark hair. He uh, he said this week, and I don't have his video in here yet, but he also said that there's a separate problem that Intel has not acknowledged, and that's an oxidation problem. He said lots of these chips um, have been oxidized during the manufacturing process, and that can't be fixed. That's going to be that can't be patched with software or anything like that or firmware. And so he's saying between both issues, everyone's looking at 100% failure here. It's not a matter of when or if, it's a matter of when. So do what Jay's 2 cents says. Go check his latest video. Change those settings now, and then watch your, like I said, your motherboard manufacturer for BIOS updates.
Mike, which one did you say you got?
I got the Ryzen. I think it's a 7800 X3D. They have a 7900, but somebody, yeah, they talked me into the 7800 for it's better or it's more stable.
Okay.
Well, that takes us to results. Let's finish up the Brickyard of 400. All right, I got a P6. I ran good. I worked my way to the front. Uh, After a while, I had a couple of times where I got shoved to the back and I had to work my way back through the pack, and I had speed in the car. My brake pedal was messed up. I was surprised that I was actually able to get by with the way it was. I'll talk more about that later, but man, happy to get a P6. My Tony P11. Sorry, guys. P11. Knew I was effed when caution came out with like 10 to go. I was crap on the short run. I got used worse than a lot lizard's Coke bottle. David, don't know how you finished.
I got wrecked out. Got conned into running because teammates was running good most of the race, kind of mid pack. Taken out by a wreck in front of me, nowhere to go, and I have I had it. I declare officially that I'm out for the season. I'm not doing any more NIS or A car races. I've removed them from my favorites on the iRacing app. I'm and it's not just getting wrecked out of one race. I haven't had a good month in months, and it's because of the car and the product and the particular drivers that race that particular car, and I just need to be away from it. I was really mad after the Wednesday race. On this one, I felt cold. I was like, nope, that's it. I just can't do this anymore. So I bought the B car, and this week I've been focusing on IMSA and just decided I'm going to start learning the tracks that I've been putting off learning. And I learned Fuji this week, and it's starting to get around okay with it. It's actually kind of a fun track. I like the particular corners with the really late apexes that it has.
Okay. And then John P. last.
Yeah, I'm kind of like David. I mean, I'm not mad because I got other things in life to be mad about. But before I was in this race with teammate Tony Rochette. We're sitting on the starting grid, and I said, Tony, you need to watch out for the number. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say the number even on the podcast without getting banned. But I said, watch out for so and so because he's oblivious to his surroundings. He'll wreck you. So lap 1, turn 1. That guy wrecked me and took me out, ruined my car before I even got a half a lap in. Folks, this is a lesson. You get a reputation on iRacing. People know if you're crap or not. And I knew this guy, and he wrecked me. But it's guys like him that have killed me week after week. I'm with David. I'm done with NIS for a while. The last 6 weeks, I've lost 450 iReady because of people like this. I'm now a B car and C truck driver, and we get to some results later, and I'll tell you why. That's it.
And then Brad, P34.
Yeah, so did not have a great race Wednesday night, so tried it on Friday. Started P5, but we wadded it up into turn 3. Leader lost it getting into turn 3, couldn't avoid it. It's what it is. I'm my frustration with it is all the big races this year, I've just had really poor finishes, which is super frustrating because I've had very fast cars in all of them. Coke 600 just knew I had at least probably a top 3, top 4 car. Same here with the Brickyard. But hey, it is what it is. You're not going to win all of them, so we'll go on.
All right. And then Sunday Open. Look, I talked about the 4 crown jewels in NASCAR because I had an idea that I might be able to win that 4th crown jewel on Sunday. I was P4. I was fairly competitive car. I ran top 5 most of the day. I actually led some laps. I just didn't have enough for some of these guys at the end. They were just a little bit better than me, but I'm still happy with that result. What a great top 4. It's frustrating to hear teammates don't want to race NIS, bad racing, this and that. Hey, I had a great race. We had a great race Sunday Open. Top 5 all day. I didn't have any problems. I didn't get wrecked. We didn't have a million cautions. It was a great race. All right, Tony Rochette wrecked out. Bobby Jonas wrecked out. P32 after leading roughly the first 20 laps. I lost 88 iRating. Tom Dreiling, P16.
We talked mostly about Spa already, but again, P7.
All right. And then I'll talk about my championship hopes. In the FIA F4 Regional Championship Americas, I ran Lime Rock. Lap 1, turn 4, side by side. I see a guy up ahead off track. he decides to rejoin the track literally as we're coming by and destroys all three of us. Next race, from a dive bomber, he dives into turn 1 on lap 2, wipes out 2 or 3 of us. I couldn't miss it. Next race, get wrecked out again, but take a quick repair and drive it back up to finish P10. Then finally, the fourth race, started P7, made no mistakes, and gradually worked my way up to finish P3. I will take that result for the week and park it. Next up, I ran the Ferrari in the Rainmaster series at Oulton Park. Unbelievably, I took pole position. After the race started, I fell to second at one point, but led the most laps. I had about a 30-second lead over second place in the entire field. I actually spun out on the final lap. Crap. But somehow got it running and still finished, though I was some 20 seconds ahead of second place. My first win since the license split in sports cars. Ran it again today. Earlier today, I qualified P6 this time. I actually went off 4 different times from the rain and finished P8. Okay, and then John, P1. Well done.
Yeah, I got the C open. Like I said earlier, I'm going to C and B races now, but qualified P2. I stayed in the top 5 the whole race. On the last lap, there was a guy that was a little too aggressive. Yeah, the whole race. I mean, he was bump drafting people who had cars right in front of him. He didn't know what he was doing, but he tried to bump draft on the last lap on the backstretch, took out the top 3 cars. I got around it. I benefited from his incompetence. Went all the way around, cruised to the win, P1.
Is that the first win in the truck, or?
I think I might have had one other in a past life, but first win at Daytona.
Well done. And then Brad, you get a win. IMSA.
Yeah, so GTD at Interlagos, P1, started P3. Probably, yeah, I really had about a top 3 car. Not as much speed as the other guys did, but got first and second, ended up getting together on lap 3. Just happened to be at the right place at the right time. Was able to drive away from the field, score my first win since being back on the service. So that was last week. And then this week, GTD again at Fuji and P1. So much more convincing win this week. Started P2, took the lead on lap 1, was able to stretch it out while P2 and P3 were fighting for position. I had a 9-second lead after pitting, but over like the last 15 minutes, just all the faster traffic just kept catching me at the wrong places. I mean, just the worst places to get caught on the track. Ended up losing about 4 seconds to the guy. Still won by 5 seconds, but just kind of can't believe I've won 2 races back to back and currently leading championship in Division 3 for IMSA. So super excited. This break couldn't have come at a better time.
Like I said, when you won, now it's time to stack them up, and you are literally stacking these wins one after another. Get that championship. I know you're not leading by much, but if you keep getting P1s, I think you got it.
After that one, I got about a 40-point lead right now. So
I think I'm a 56-point lead on my FIA F4. All right, other racing I ran hosted. Chris McGuire, old IndyCar at Pocono, finished P9. I got to say, the graphics on my triples with the new computer and the 4090, wow, they look great at New Pocono. I mean, Pocono is very wide open, and you can look really, really far. And I was just, in that open cockpit IndyCar, craning my head around and just kind of taking in the scenery. It was pretty cool. Second race I ran, winner, chicken dinner. My first time in the dirt midget at Dirt Lanier. So the race, the host accidentally put in only 2.4 gallons, and this isn't a car that can be refueled in the pits, and so we literally didn't have enough fuel to finish the race. They told everybody this up front. So from the get-go, from lap 1, I never put the throttle down more than 50%. I never went a hair above 50% on the throttle. And I watched my sim racing apps from my fuel mileage. And guess what? I was the only person to actually finish the race. I finished ahead of everybody by 4 laps. I beat the entire field of 44 cars. And I think that's the largest margin I've ever beat won a race by winning by 4 laps. Anyway, it was a neat way to race. You had to be slow to win it, kind of thing. Like I was letting everybody go, and because I knew that they would never make it. I knew that my fuel mileage, I would just barely make it, and I did. So that was a blast, actually. All right, David, Mad Sim Summer Series GT3 Bathurst P5.
Yeah, this was pretty interesting. With the change in priorities, I decided I know they're running a summer series. It's run by our friends in the into the Apex group. And I was like, I'll just jump in the league and run with y'all for a night. And they were running at Bathurst, and they plan on having rain at every race at some point. So it's guaranteed. Brad would hate it.
Stop it. I did 2.5 hours in it. I think I've proved that I don't mind rain.
Or you don't have a choice.
But Brad, do you remember the way we did when we did that practice session where it went instantly nightmare?
Squall.
That's exactly how they had it set up. The rain came in on the last 2 laps. So I'm running like, I think P5. I was around P5, P6. The rain comes in on the last 2 laps. And it was, do you stop it and run the wets for those last 2 laps, or you try to tough it out? I made the first lap okay. The second lap, I was going around the corners at 20 miles an hour because it was so slick. And I lost position to the guys that were faster than me to begin with and stopped to get wet tires. But I didn't really lose position to anybody else. I think there was only about 6 of us that didn't completely bend our car. One other guy who stayed on wets got he stayed on dries. He didn't finish. He totaled the car. I just really creeped around because it got so slick that you just couldn't go on the slicks. But pretty happy with it. It was nice, respectful racing. And Bathurst in the Corvette, interestingly, because it's the first time I've taken the Corvette to Bathurst. We used to run the Merc there. The Corvette, it actually is pretty easy to drive there. So keep that in mind when Bathurst rolls around.
Yeah, we ran the Ferrari there earlier for the it was the 12 hours. The mid-engine car was, I think, so much easier to drive there.
Let's jump to final thoughts. David Hall.
I think I've already pretty much said it all. I'm just going to do other things that I find more fun right now. Not quitting iRacing. I'll probably try to run just so that I'm still around on the right nights. I'll plan my B opens to run the same time as NIS.
All right, cool. And then Greg Hectus, final thoughts.
It's interesting to be in the off week here. After just getting my new pedals, I was like looking forward to more NIS racing, but I have to take a couple weeks off here. But I'm gonna run some B series then with it, and I'll probably definitely run more sports car. I know I asked you last night about the F4, so I might join you in one of those races, Mike, and get some open wheel and bring my license up in the open wheels part too.
Fuji's a free track, Greg. You already own it.
I own most of the road courses anyways. And any of the old... I'm probably a 90%er, almost a 95% owner of things in iRacing.
Got all the dirt tracks and all the rally tracks?
That would be where the dirt tracks is where it lacks.
And then Brad Rand, final thought.
Enjoy the NIS Olympic break. So spend a little bit more time turning left and right. Looking at the rest of the schedule for IMSA, got some good tracks on here. So I think it's the first time I've ever been actually in the in the chase for a championship of some sort. So I'm super excited. And just that's what I'm focusing on right now. NIS will pick back up in a couple weeks, and we'll get back to that grind. But just really going to focus on IMSA, trying to finish strong in season 3.
Same with me. F4 is my primary at this point. NIS is secondary. Monday night, I'm chomping at the bit to get some points for that. Looking forward to finishing that out. John Curley, final thought.
Yeah, I'm joining the David Hall iRacing philosophy. I'm with him. NIS is a great series. If you like it, keep doing it. But I think I need to do what fits for me, and I'm going to try to do the same thing David is. I'm going to jump in to do those C and B races whenever the teammates are doing NIS, so I can jump in chat, and I'm just going to do what I enjoy.
All right, very good. My final thoughts, my brakes, my pedals. As I transitioned to another computer, lost the calibration, obviously, and I think I only have to calibrate these things every time I change computers. And so this is the third time, I think. And I always forget how to do it. And after a day or so, I've done some research in the forums and found some posts where people give me the right information and stuff. And I kind of figured out how to calibrate it, but there's still a problem. Like when you push the brake all the way down, the little red bar goes shaky, like it's going up and down, up and down. And from what I understand, that's a bad sensor, or the sensor is just going old. It's too old. And so a nice guy named Robert Barris put up a forum post I found that has all the parts for these particular pedals. And I've ordered off Amazon a new sensor. I DM'd the guy and I asked him, for some confidence on how to replace it. Am I going to get hydraulic fluid everywhere? And he assured me I'm not if I'm careful. So I went ahead and ordered the parts off Amazon. I'll get those in a couple days and hopefully get my brakes back to like they were brand new. And really enjoying the new computer. I can't tell you what a relief it is to just be future proofed, to have all these frames per second with all the check marks on. I'm loving it. With that, hey, we'll see you on the track. All right. Sorry, Greg.